In this video, we will create a custom Slate widget for our loading screen. Now let's explore one of the most powerful ways to create a loading screen using Unreal's Slate framework. Slate is Unreal's native UI system, and it's particularly well suited for loading screens. Slate runs efficiently on background threads, which is crucial for loading screens. While your main game thread is busy loading assets and preparing for the new level, Slate can keep your loading screen responsive and smooth. This means no freezing or stuttering even during heavy loading operations. One of Slate's greatest features is its automatic handling of resolution changes. Whether your players are on a 4K monitor or switching between windowed and full screen modes, your loading screen will automatically adjust and maintain its layout. You won't need to write any extra code to handle different screen sizes. Slate provides a rich set of built-in widgets that we can use right out of the box. We have access to progress bars, text blocks, images, and animations, all optimized for performance during loading sequences. Best of all, Slate integrates seamlessly with Unreal's Movie Player module, which we discussed earlier. This means we can leverage all of the Movie Player's threading and synchronization features while maintaining complete control over our loading screen's appearance. Let's look at how we'll implement this. Okay, let's go ahead and create our own custom Slate loading screen. So to do that, first we have to open up our build file for our loading screen module. And in here, we want to add a few modules that we'll be using for our loading screen module. So let's add the movie player. We're going to be using the movie player module for the same reason how we used it before. For the loading screen, to display the loading screen, we're going to use the engine module to be able to keep track of a texture to the object. That will be the background of our loading screen. And then finally, we're going to use Slate and Slate Core for all of our Slate functionality inside our project. All right, so let's build all of this and let's create a Slate widget. All right, so when this opens up now, we're able to create C++ Slate classes, and we'll be able to configure all of those. So let's go to the content browser and let's right click and create a new C++ class. We're going to select Slate Widget. So this is a custom Slate widget, which is derived from the S compound widget. We want this to be called loading screen. But we don't want it to be added inside the project module. We want it to be added inside the loading screen module. Okay, so now that we have two modules, when we create code, we can specify which module we want that code to be in. In this case, we want this loading screen to be inside the loading screen module. All right, so let's close this. Let's reload our project. And now we have our loading screen header file and our loading screen CPP file. So let's start with the header file. So there's a couple of things that we want to add. We want to add a couple of private members down here. One to store the 2D texture that we'll use to specify what we want to be displayed as the background. And then we're going to have a shared pointer to a brush that we'll use to actually render the background that the Slate, it's going to be a Slate brush that Slate uses to render it. And then we're going to have an argument that's passed into the loading screen, which is this, the 2D texture. So we're going to set it null by default. The argument's going to be a background texture, which is this member here, and it'll be of uTexture 2D pointer type. All right, so now inside our CPP file, we want to, inside a loading screen, we're going to have the background image as well as a throbber. So let's include slate extras.h. This is going to be for the throbber the throbber widget that we're going to be using. And then inside construct, the first thing that we want to do is we want to set up the background texture. So the arguments, the texture, background texture is going to be passed in through the arguments when we construct this widget. We're going to store that inside our pointer. Then we're going to create a dynamically allocated slate brush, make that into a shareable pointer, and then we're going to set the resource of that slate brush to the background texture to the that was passed into this widget. Next, we want to start creating how our widget will look like. So for a whole hierarchy. So first, we're going to create a child slot. This child slot will contain an overlay widget. The overlay widget will have a slot that will fill vertically and will fill horizontally, and will the slot will contain an image. The image will either, if the background texture was valid, if it was passed in successfully as an argument, we're going to use the slate's background brush. Otherwise, we're going to use null, and then we're going to set the color and opacity to white as well. Next thing, we want to add our throbber to this. So let's add another overlay in here. So this one we're going to align to the bottom and to the right, have a padding of 10. It's going to contain the throbber widget. It's going to be visible but not hit testable, so you can't touch it, but you'll be able to see it. And then let's set the number of pieces of the throbber to 10. All right, so this widget is done. So it's all going to be for a loading screen for right now, just an image and a throbber to it. So now let's open up our loading screen module. And to this, we want the module to be able to be in charge of what background texture the loading screen widget will display. So we're going to add a pointer to a texture 2D. And then we're going to load that inside our startup module function. Right, so when this loads up, we are going to load the uTexture object, and it's going to be inside our content, first person, UI, assets, loading screen, background. That's where it will be, and that is what we are going to load. Next, we're going to get our loading screen module to use the new widget that we created. So let's go in here and let's add a couple of include files. So we want to use the loading screen widget, and we want to use the movie player again to start off our loading screen process. Inside our start loading screen function, we're again going to create an instance of the loading screen attributes, set autocomplete when loading completes to false, display it for 2 seconds, but now this time, instead of using the test widget, we're going to create a new widget for the widget loading screen, which is going to be our loading screen widget, and then we're going to pass in the texture, which is the one that we loaded in here. All right, so let's build this, and then let's configure the texture in the editor. All right, so now let's see. So we wanted content, first person, UI, assets, loading screen, background. So let's add our image in there. So content, first person, UI, assets, and I'm gonna import loading screen image in here. We should also configure this as well to optimize the texture for for what it's used for. So if we just open it up, we want to make sure that there's no bitmaps. The texture group, we want it to belong to UI. And for compression settings, we want to compress for user interface 2D. All right, so let's save all of that. And now, again, we're going to have to test in a standalone game. All right, so now if we go to transition to another level, we see our new loading screen that we created that has the background image and the throbber in the bottom. In the next video, we will explore how to make our loading screen module configurable through the project settings.